Equally as cool as a motion box showing up are Menser shocks showing up from our buddies over there, John and Mark and the crew. We have all new custom valve shocks. They know what we're trying to do. They've done this a million times, but yeah, 26-inch radial type of stuff. Front struts with adjustable coilovers in the front, so we can really get this thing sitting down, looking good and performing good. But also, that's kind of the key. I mean, obviously travel limiters work really well, but you need to be able to control that front strut as well as possible. The rate at which it's allowed to extend and then as well as compression matters. In the back of the car, having the correct shock is crucial to making those 26-inch tires work right. This car is what we learned a lot about running small tires on, especially 26-inch tires. Struggled for years, and one day I just stumbled upon Mark Menser from going to lights out races in Georgia, and I said, do you have a shock that you can set me up with for that 8.5-inch tire? And he's like, yep, definitely. You know, at that time I think he held the records. We bolted it on, we set them right to their setting, which they give you paperwork like set it here if it's a good day on the track, set it here if it's hot, cold, whatever. And generally speaking, dead nuts on. I mean, yeah, you can tune them to be a little bit better, but it parted the seas for us, the clouds open, sunshine down on pumpkin spice, and it went as fast as ever. So now that we're going to a radial and those shocks are, I don't even know what's been done to them in the last 10 years. We decided to put all new stuff on there and send those back. Of course, we could have got them revalved, but we didn't. I actually didn't know it still had the Mensers on there. I thought the previous owner had taken them off. So all new stuff going on. They got the spring set up for us, the shock set up, which tells us we're going to go out day one. And worst case, we're going to do a little bit of a wheelie that we got to tame down, but we know we're going to go down the track and make good licks, which is, you know, essentially kind of what you're battling up against at these drag and drives. You typically only have 1 or 2 good passes for the day. Somebody's typically oiling down, or there's just a lot of people in line. You might get 3 or 4 if you're really lucky, but you got to make them count, because not only do you have to get the passes done, but you have to make it to the next track. So you don't want to spend all day there if you don't have to. And by the end of the week, you start getting a little bit tired. Us old guys starting to get a little older. You don't want to be there till 8 o'clock at night, then drive till 2 in the morning and be back again in the morning. So we just want to come right out and make this unit work right off the rip every pass and every track we go to. Craig, I feel like we're on an episode of SpongeBob many hours later, many days later.
Well, we got everything hooked up in front here.
So word to the wise, making sure you have the correct spindles for the brakes that you have, you know, pretty amateur stuff. We got the Mensers on. We got some Racecraft front A-arms. They've been on here since I owned it the first time. And just get everything, you know, seamed up here. We'll get this bearing preload set on this unit. Man, it's actually starting to come together. Oh yeah, we got to hook the brake lines back up so make sure those fit. But it looks like they're going to be no problem. All right, class is in session here for another lesson. You want to make sure that you check range of motion with the shocks and the brakes, and then you want to check your brake lines. Obviously that's not ideal, so we're gonna have to get a longer brake line there. That's really bad. Like, people will they'll say, whatever's fine, but like when you burst a brake line on the highway or at the track or whatever, it's never a good situation. Virtually never happens pulling out of your driveway, so that one needs to be replaced. This one, on the other hand, I have checked and it's plenty gonna be long enough. So we'll get this sorted. You want to make sure there's enough slack that, you know, no matter which way it moves, it can have enough length. Finishing up the Menser rears, along with some top secret stuff that I can't show you guys around here, but you'll see it soon enough in final testing stages on some new products that we're getting ready to release, hopefully. Obviously, drag and drives are the ultimate, they're the ultimate abuse test, right?
Definitely, no doubt. 5 days of a lot of miles.
5 days of fun and abuse. Once we kind of give it the okay, we'll start putting them into production. Power Glide is in the car. We ended up, back when I built this thing on the floor in my brother's garage, I made this contraption of a cross member, which for a 400 was mounted back here. So we actually slid it forward, and then I cut the mount off and had this one. I'm gonna come back and make something a little bit nicer out of lighter chromoly here in the future. It's not super heavy, but it's definitely could use some weight savings, but given our time constraints,
this will work just fine.
It'll work great. bolts right up, and now we're in business. I think we just need to wire the trans brake back up, and a maybe a fluid temp sensor. And I think after that, we're just waiting on a drive shaft as far as like transmission stuff. We got the cable about done. I think another hour or so we'll be done underneath the car, and then moving back up to the cold side, get the rear end back up with the shocks, and we should be golden. So right now I'm working on getting the dipstick mounted. I needed a different dipstick than the 400, of course. And then I'm doing a transmission overflow catch can, so I'm mounting it here. If you've watched any of my previous videos, Greg Slack has a whole lot of tips about if you don't want to underfill a transmission. So to have the extra capacity up here, you run a line up here. That way, if it does get hot and push some fluid up, the next time it needs the fluid, it's not cavitating the torque converter. That's, I guess, one huge enemy of a torque converter and making power, or putting power down, I guess, or applying it, is not having enough fluid. So by mounting it here, it's kind of like an extra reservoir, and it'll drain back as needed, it'll fill up as needed, and just kind of a free-flowing system. Obviously, it's 6 weeks coming because old Tanner's got his paycheck in here.
That's right.
You guys have seen this Chevelle on there. So Tanner and his buddy Chin are gonna do what class are you guys gonna do with this thing?
We're signed up for Pro Street right now.
What's that?
We're signed up for Pro Street right now.
Pro Street.
But we're you know, we're new to this whole drag and drive thing, so we might change that.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Tanner and these guys to do this. Are you doing it on a radial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The 315 that's on it. Yep.
Pro Street's just like an all steel class, old muscle car type of deal.
Yeah, it's just mainly because the way the back half is. That
Oh
was
yeah,
kind of
because it's back
the
half.
reasoning.
Yep. Final touches on building a new cold side. All right, quite frankly, I've been kind of avoiding doing the cold side because I thought it was going to be, I didn't think I had the fabrication tools here.
Big fabricator.
But just a 90 and a straight, hooks right up to quick seal, and then we'll mount the blow-off valve down there. Should be in business. Looks nice and simple and clean. Kind of, it's like, you know, low key, nothing too crazy. So clears everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack this up and weld it. See if I can still remember how to weld, and we'll go from there. Yeah, that rubber on the quarter is actually a protection mechanism against rocks. So
Yeah.
I know it seems like a lot of work, but
No, came off actually pretty easily.
that quarter has, I promise you, that quarter has not been seen since probably like 2011.
Yeah, it's gonna stay that way now.
Sam, you just couldn't handle it, could you?
No, I couldn't handle that beard on it. Because it looked like, I mean, the rest of the car looked okay, and it's like, got this black, no, it's got to come off.
Yeah.
I know we might probably get a few chips, but hey, it's racing.
No, I was just joking. I was trying to explain my laziness. You got the right shirt on, though, for the occasion. Drag and drive.
Oh, I think the new one's going to say, was it drag and drive and dive?
Drag, dive, and... Oh, yeah, drag, drive, and dive, yeah.
Because you said there was a couple places on there. We heard of those. Nobody. So, drag, drive, and dive.
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to check out all the finest spots of Backwoods, Florida. So, this is what the old quarter looked like.
Get a backwoods restaurants. Yeah, what do you think of that big bearded? Yeah.
Look at it, Sam. Looks like $1 million.
That's what it's all about. Well, you know what we could do?
No. Rubber looks better than that.
Quit blue taping this.
It looks like one of those yuppie, you know, weekend racers that hangs out at the country club when you put that blue tape on there.
I won't name the cars.
Well, safe to say Sam's got this thing looking like a new car. Sam, give us some words of wisdom. I mean, everybody always sees you cleaning, but we all need some tips. We need to have like a Sam's tech tip.
Here's a tech tip for you. If you can see what you want the car to be before you ever start the project, don't let yourself down and come short of that. You're saying, well, that's easy to do. Well, okay, you got to remember, you got to satisfy yourself. So set you some realistic stops along the way, call them goals, whatever you want to. And if it doesn't come to that, you've let yourself down on the thing. Not so much the operator, but you've let yourself down. There you go.
That's fair. Guys, all of Sam's products are now available on the Cletus McFarland website. And I think they're actually starting to pop up a little bit everywhere anymore. So his products obviously work. You guys will see this on Sick Week. Old MacFab bead locks came through. I had 2 sets of D10s for this car, and I wanted one bead locked for the 26-inch radials. So they turned these around real quick. So yeah, we're all set to go in this thing. Bolt the those new Mickey Thompsons on, and we should be good to go. Well, folks, we are down to total chaos at the shop. Stuff everywhere, toolboxes are ruined, but I did somewhat remember how to weld a little bit. I'm not the best welder. Got my catch can lines finished. Engine bay is really starting to come around. I tidied up some wiring and lines, and then I got one side of travel limiters done. So those are ready to roll. I mean, a drag radial car is gonna do wheelies no matter what you do. So you need to have these, you need to have good shocks. And then out back, Preka is getting these baby Mickey Thompson 26-inch tires mounted on the fresh double bead locks from MacFab. And brakes are done. So we're really making some pretty smooth headway. Tanner's car is come along nicely. He added some of our burn downs. Methanol cars, you push so much pressure that just needed, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then we actually made some baffles for the inside of these. These were designed to go in like a billet Hemi, you know, like a LDR car or whatever, but you can just make some quick sheet metal baffles. Maybe it's a product that we'll make in the future. That way somebody has the option. Essentially what you're trying to do is prevent oil streams coming directly into the orifice and out. So just blocking oil. But I think that's, you know, that's kind of what we're doing. We're finding out what products we need to make next.
That's right.
Even though you're the TVM guy. So should have this thing fired up here in an hour or two, and cross our fingers that we're heading down the right path. Right?
Yep.
But for now, let's go get some Mexican food.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Tableside guac. Tableside guac, right?
It's the good stuff.
All right. Attempting to start up our first car. Well, at least we got one of them running.
Ready.
A week in advance.
To hook a trailer up, man.
Like a week tomorrow, we would be leaving.
Yeah.
So let's try not to break it between now and then.
Sounds great.
To work every day.
All right, we're checking on these, just checking all right, we're checking all of Tanner's valve train, and I just wanted to show you guys a simple baffle we made. This is super easy to make on your own. It's not as good as like our billet cover, which is a little bit more complex, but this will definitely reduce oil going into your breather system by a large percentage. So if you have something like this at home, you can just bend up some sheet metal, make sure it clears your valve train, and you're good to go. And it's gonna, like I said, it's not perfect, but it's gonna make a huge difference as far as oil getting into your catch can. A little brake bleeding action. How do you think about driving through that, Preka?
Feel like I fit like a glove.
Yeah. Well,
Holding.
big Mustang guy.
Big Mustang guy, you know.
Yeah. You got one of your own at home,
Haven't
don't
sat
you?
in one in a while.
Yeah, that thing hasn't run for a long time. Need to get that down to Florida.
Yeah.
Those MacFab bead locks are looking sweet. Man, this car just looks right on the 26. We should probably lower down, Preka, just so we can... well, that's what it's going to look like in the front all the time, just hanging them hoops. We got some shocks to adjust down, I think.
Yeah, she has a big old tire on there, but
It's going to look good. We'll get the shocks adjusted. Those wheels look fantastic. Maybe knock the white letters off. It is not 1987. And, man, we're sitting pretty good. All right, we're running all new fuel lines. I kind of really didn't want to have to do this, but when you see how flexible these are, they're supposed to be reinforced. So the thing about AN fuel lines is, you know, they might look fine on the outside, but if they're this flexible, unless they're a really premium hose, which this is not. It's some really old stuff. It's not even Frigola, so I'm not a big fan of it anyways. But there's steel reinforcement wire in there, but inside of that is just a some sort of a rubber hose. Of course, it's chemical resistant, but over time it degrades, and what'll end up happening is as it starts to degrade, it's going to get pinholes in it, and then between the weaving you're going to start seeing leaks will just start popping up, that and at the fitting itself. When that happens, nobody knows. Obviously, conditions, the different types of gasoline, methanol, chemicals, all that stuff matter. The heat, the temperature, the environment it's been in, cold, hot, all that stuff. But when you're talking about something that's 15 years old, it's not worth taking a chance. So I went ahead and just ripped everything out. It's not worth burning a car down or crashing, whatever, when you spring a leak. Especially fuel systems, you know, add 30 pounds of boost, so you add 1 to 1, so you're 70, 80 pounds of fuel pressure, maybe 100. It starts to get up there to where it's a little bit uncomfortable. So running all new Frigola lines on this thing, just a peace of mind. I mean, this car means a lot to me, so last thing I want to do is wreck it to save, you know, a couple $100 in fuel hose at this point. So that's what we're doing. Don't forget, when you're building a fuel system, the dirtiest it's ever going to be is when you're putting it together, because that hose is sitting in warehouses, our shop, it's being transported, you're leaving it sit in your shop, bugs crawl in it when you're cutting on it and stuff. So what you want to do is after you're done, either hook the pump up and leave one hose that goes into a bucket, or you can blow it out with an air hose while you're doing it. But even if you do all that, you want to make sure to change the filter pretty quickly after it's all done and running, because even though you think you got it all, you won't. I mean, there's stuff in filter housings, there's machine dust that gets in like the pumps, all that stuff from assembly. It's just not worth it. So blow out the hoses and change your filter, clean it, whatever, within a few days of getting it started for the first time. Oh, all right, back to work. And of course, Sam's back polishing, because that's what Sam does.
We're supposed to do, right?
This thing looked like $1 million, and here you are, going over it again.
Hey, somebody got to start the final thing on, you know?
You were thinking about this car in your sleep last night. You spent so much time on it, you probably can't stop.
This car here where the, you know, we don't want we want this car here right. When Debu's out there, I know you owned it before, but when Debu's there, they're going to say, "Wow, Dave, you getting a new car?" No, it's my old car. And they're like, "Oh, it looks new."
Is that a new paint job?
Yeah,
what are you using there?
Oh, the final up here, paint protection.
Okay, is that like
And
a
even,
wax?
And even with the little pad that it comes with, it's a real heavy duty wax.
Yep.
And applies pretty easy, and then the takeoff is real easy.
All right.
So that's kind of the, after we've got all the scratches out, then we come back with the random orbital light polish and take all of the buffing marks out left by the buffer. And you got that done, now you're ready for this.
And then you,
After we got that on, we'll let it cure for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes while you got your car up or whatever it takes. The beauty about this, you can leave it on overnight if you wanted to.
Really? And it still comes off?
Oh yeah, it still comes off.
So it's not like a normal wax that hardens and then you can't
Oh,
get
you
it back
get to,
off?
and then you got to get a chisel to get it off.
Yeah.
I remember back in the old days, they had one called Blue Coral. Man, you work all Saturday on the thing, then you didn't even want to go out on a date. It was done like, no, I don't even want to go.
Car look. All right, so we got the old fuel hose. I actually was able to cut through this green dot stuff with some scissors, which is never a good idea. Best place for it right now, in there. Well, look what the cat drug in. What do you got there, Prega?
A nice old aluminum shaft from our friends at PST.
Yeah,
It's the last piece of the puzzle, I guess, to get this thing back together.
yeah, tighten some fuel lines and install that. Hopefully
Yep.
we measured it right.
Yeah. Cut twice, measure once, right?
Apparently they call me the brake man there.
Yeah.
So shout out to Ron at PST. These guys turned this around quickly. They are a Florida company.
Yep.
Luckily, we're really close to them.
Yep.
So now we can get that in El Toro and get her finished.
Yep.
All right, it's in, fits perfect. One thing I want to do, because we went to a 4-inch, is make sure that we don't have any clearance issues. These might actually have to come out, not the end of the world. But I'm gonna jack the rear end up, put it at like ride height, and just make sure we have clearance to go even deeper, so if it hits bumps, that type of thing, it's not gonna hit anything. And then we're just waiting on a drive shaft loop, because we had to change the cross member in the front. Had to cut the old drive shaft loop off and Power Glide has a little bit longer tail housing, so we'll make a custom one of those units. And after that, I think we're ready to race. So another thing that's worth noting, before you're doing this stuff, especially on these drag and drive types of cars that have like rod ends and stuff on them, you want to go through and check all your rod ends and make sure they're loose. Seems, I could be wrong, but it seems like this car is bound up somewhere. So you want to check all of your, you want to check everything. It could be an anti-roll bar issue. It could be a spring hanging up issue or shock issue, but highly doubtful. So we're gonna just kind of go through everything, make sure it needs to be able to move up and down freely. If not, the suspension will never work properly. And you know, these rod ends aren't made to go 100,000 miles. All right, guys, she is back on the ground with a full Mike Preka wheel detail to go along with a Sam paint detail. All the updates in the engine bay. Put some of the HPL Race ATF in this unit. That's what we've been running in Nova for years. Seems to work really well with what we do, drag and drive, with the Greg Slack converter, all that stuff. So that's what we've been running in El Toro. I don't even know where El Toro went. Where's El Toro? Did you give it away?
Yeah, we may have gave it to a new home for some better love.
That's all right. I know there's been a lot of talk about a lot of people don't like the LS and the Mustang, but
yeah,
what you guys got to understand is I built this thing in 2010. It was actually like an OG LS Mustang. That was before people were... Well, and also, there weren't many people doing LS Mustang swaps in 2010.
No, not at all.
So much so that it was hard to find most of the parts to do it. Not that I was the originator, but I definitely wasn't as common.
Yeah, it wasn't like there's a ton of cross members.
We're not going to change it. That's this car's history. And I do appreciate the comments, so it helps the algorithm. But from here, we're going to go get it taken over to our friends at Superior Automotive in Bradenton, and they're going to do a alignment on it. But of course, we need some transmission fluid in it so we can pull it on the trailer.
You know, the Godzilla is a good platform too, but this LS is going to spank Garrett's, what is it called, the white car?
McMuffin or something?
McMuffin,
what is it?
Or
McFlurry?
Yeah,
some
McRib, I don't know. Some pumpkin spice is going to put the gap on McFlurry.
Yeah, the gap train is going to happen on McFlurry. You know, it just doesn't matter. Superior Automotive, they are going to do a four-wheel alignment on it, set the pinion angle, get the bump steer set, all that stuff, and then mount some drive tires, some Cooper Cabras for the back with some 28-inch tall tires so we can go down the interstate, not at 4,000 RPM. So these guys do all of our alignments and stuff, and it's really handy that they're here in Bradenton, and good people. They also have hot rods and race cars, so pretty cool stuff. So one of the things about our Rife sensors is the intake air temps and the coolant temps are actually scaled differently. So I'm actually going to show you how easy it is in the Holley V6 software to use the Rife sensors. But first I got to download the current tune. So I've actually not even downloaded this on my own personal tuning computer. So go ahead and pull the tune out of it. All right, of course you always want to save a file before you go too crazy. And then from here, it's literally this easy. So we're gonna go up to sensors. Down here, we have coolant temp sensor. We're gonna click the GM coolant temp sensor and go to Rife liquid. We're gonna go to mass air temp sensor, switch from Holley to the Rife low air temp sensor. I'm gonna go save this as a modified file so it has a different name. And then we're just gonna USB link it. It's obviously saying there's some sensor and global changes, so we're going to send that to the ECU. Obviously, going to ask us to cycle the ignition power. Once you cycle ignition power, you're good to go. So, of course, the reason why we're switching to the Rife stuff is because, as I said in a previous video, the coolant temp is faster and more accurate. as well as intake air, which is the most important one, especially on an air-to-air car like this. The lagginess, if you haven't seen the video where I did a back-to-back with El Toro, it's definitely worth a watch. You can see how much faster ours is versus the Holley or GM style sensor. It's 15 times faster, 3 times more accurate, and that makes a huge difference. When we let off the throttle, you can see the Rife actually drops right down, and other ones are actually still lagging behind and rising. So where the actual tune is referencing the intake air temp is actually inaccurate. Not only is it slow, so it's not going to see the dynamic changes. If you actually think it's at, say, 200, and let's just say you think it's at 200 degrees, but it's actually at 230. I think the difference that we saw was 20 to 30 degrees. Well, 230 on C16 is actually a dangerous, it's starting to get into dangerous territory. 200, not a concern. So that would obviously dictate like how much timing you put into it, how aggressive you're getting with, how lean you're going with the car, all that stuff. So having a fast and accurate intake air temp is very crucial to a knowledgeable tune that you can make aggressive and big power moves on. Of course, anything's pretty safe if the tune's safe, but as you start edging it out and trying to maximize your combo, that's something you're going to want to have. So yep, it's really that easy with the Holley V6 software. They have a drop down, you select it, boom, you're done, and you're moving on. All right, guys, that is it for today. The car is aligned. We got it running, everything's set. Tomorrow we are going to head to Bradenton to go test for Sick Week. We don't know what we don't know. I haven't driven this car in over 10 years myself, and I really haven't actually seen it gone down the track in a while either. So I think there won't be a whole lot of surprises, but you just never know. Things that sit for a winter or even longer. We made a lot of changes, so we need to shake it down. It is Wednesday before Sick Week, so hopefully if we do find something, we have Thursday, Friday, and then potentially Saturday to fix it, and then we can roll into Sunday feeling good. If it is good, we might go back again on Friday and just start chipping away at making this thing competitive in the Rowdy Radio class. Got some heavy hitters coming, some smart dudes that we're racing against, including Andy, my own brother. And I at least got to give them, I got to make them work for it. I can't let that GTO come walk all over old Pumpkin Spice. I mean, it's our trusted old car. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're going to do at least one more video with the testing days before Sick Week, and then every single day during Sick Week. And then there's just tons of projects coming. We've dedicated a lot of resources, and we're going to build a lot of cars and have a lot of stuff on the channel. So I think it's going to be fun and exciting. You'll see new products, you'll get some tech tips, and hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. We'll see you guys later.